Welcome back to CreatorZAnon. I'm your host, James, and before we get to our special guest, please listen to this short trailer. We have some friends of the show, and this is a wonderful show that we strongly recommend you check out. We'll be right back.
You wake up startled in the middle of the night, convinced that there's something out there in the darkness. Your brain tells you that there's nothing to be afraid of, that the inhuman shape in the corner of your room is just your laundry piled on a chair. But as you hear the ghostly, ragged breathing that doesn't belong to you, you realize your brain is dead wrong. If you love the mix of horror, mystery, and comedy in shows like Buffy, Ash vs. the Evil Dead, or Supernatural, you'll feel right at home on The Crit Show, a Monster of the Week actual play podcast where the players, playing as themselves, are tasked with being the last line of defense from the forces of evil that go bump in the night. Join us every Wednesday and learn the games we play while the gang tries their best to solve the mysteries, hunt the monsters, and protect the innocent. Their intentions are good. Their dice rolls, not so much. You can find The Crit Show at thecritshowpodcast.com or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Thank you for listening to that. And now on to our special guest. Sarah, please introduce yourself and tell everyone where they can find you on the internet.
Well, hi. Well, first of all, thank you for hosting me on your show today. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so grateful that you reached out. I'm very excited for our conversation today. Hi, I'm Sarah Ray Werner. I am the creator of the audio drama Girl in Space. I also have a show called the Right Now Podcast, which is WRITE now because it's a pun. It's for writers. Maybe that's self-explanatory. Let's see. I am a full-time writer and creator. I do a whole bunch of stuff here in the podcasting community, and I'm just really excited to be on the show and to chat with you. If people are interested in finding me, I'm out on Twitter and Instagram at Sarah Ray Werner. That's SarahRheaWerner, and also out at sarahwerner.com.
And the Cash Junkie Discord.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Come find me on the Cast Junkie Discord. Yes, I am out there as well. I'm in so many places, like I just forget them.
I am in there as well, too. And my phone took a giant poop on me, so it won't let me log into Discord anymore.
Oh.
I don't know why. It just refuses to let me in. So I'm like, I can't talk with people.
Oh, no. Your phone's trying to isolate you.
It seriously is. I blame it on the media because I came out as a Trump supporter and now they're banning me from everything. So can you tell us about your podcast, Girl in Space?
Yes, I can. So it's interesting having a show with that title because very obviously it's about a girl in space. And so, that kind of goes without saying, but it's the story of a sort of young xenobotanist who has been abandoned on a space station. You're not sure how she got there. You're not sure why she's there or why she's alone. All you know is that there are mysterious lights coming toward her. And then that's when I trail off and I do like jazz hands and say that you should listen. But really, it's a show about I wanted to create a sci-fi show that wasn't all doom and gloom. I wanted to create a sci-fi show that had a message of hope and love and found family. It still has bad things still happen and there's still danger and there's still intrigue. But at the end of the day, I wanted to create something that felt good to listen to. So that's a little bit about Girl in Space.
Yeah. So I want to go a little bit more in depth. So if you guys don't want spoilers, go listen to the show and then come back. The one thing I really liked about Girl in Space was the very first few episodes was all about this one single character, and you really dive into her and who she is as a character. And I felt like she was talking to the computer recording everything because it was her way of dealing with the isolation and not going insane. And the one thing I really liked about her is she didn't know how she got there. She assumed she was born there, but then she later finds out that she might not have been born at all. She might be a clone. And I don't know. I love the mystery about it, and I'm really hoping that you divulge more into that in season 2 whenever that comes around.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm writing it right now, so I will keep that in mind as I write.
when you introduced other characters and stuff like that, how did you come up with the whole breaking away? Like, because the way you painted her parents out, it's like they were almost criminals that hijacked a space station. So how did you come to that conclusion?
Oh, this is such a great question. It's something I've never really been asked in an interview before, so thank you for this. So a lot of it has to do with how I wrote the show. So I am notoriously a pantser. So I write by the seat of my pants. You may have heard before that, there's two kinds of creators. There's plotters and pantsers. There's people who go in with an outline, they have a plot, and then there's people who just start writing and see what happens. And so that's really how I started writing Girl in Space in that first episode. I just kind of just went with it, whatever was coming out of my brain. I know that's not like really helpful for other creators. But as I went along, I just kept having these fun ideas. One game I like to play is the what if game. And what I do is I write down a whole bunch of what ifs, and then I write the logical conclusions to, what if X was a human? So X is the main character. That's the girl in space. Mm-hmm. What if X isn't human? What if X is a clone? What if clones aren't considered human in this universe? What if there is a giant political event that happened around cloning? And then what I do is I write down all of the logical answers, and then I look at those answers and I see, what can I play with? Like, what can I subvert? What would be most fun and mysterious and interesting for my listeners? And one of those things was, what if X has been raised by the bad guys? Like, what if X's family is, like you said, some space criminals who have hijacked this research station, and she doesn't know that, and she doesn't know that, they're considered, fugitives, or they're considered criminals, by the quote unquote good guys. And so I just love playing around with those what ifs. And so that's really where that came from. That was a big what if. I also just love mysteries. And I feel like anytime you can surprise and delight your audience, they're going to love your show even more for it. And so as much as I can, I like to tuck little mysteries away in there. And even though I do kind of write by the seat of my pants, I always make sure that the mysteries come full circle. So you're not left with, I don't know if you were a fan of the TV show Lost, but they would start all these plot threads and then never wrap them up. And it was just so frustrating. And so I like to make sure, like, I introduced in episode 1 these mysterious bugs that are eating all of her potato plants. Okay, let's do something with that. And later they become a huge plot factor in what's going on the ship. So.
Yeah, I was gonna bring up the potato bugs, but thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
I actually like the potato bugs as a driving narrative part of the story.
Thank you.
So I thought that was really good. But honestly, please don't be insulted by this.
I will never be insulted.
I find your writing to go along with a lot of anime writers.
Really?
So. Yeah, I read a lot of indie manga writers, indie manhwa writers, and I love smaller writers because they put out the most fantastical stories, and they tend to get swallowed up in hype by big shows like Naruto, Bleach, Dragon Ball Z, and they get swallowed up by big comic books like Promised Neverland and stuff like that. So nobody's really looking for them. Me, I find the like 12 episode anime plots, and then I go find the book, and then I'm like, holy crap, there's 400 freaking issues here, and they barely even scratch the surface. And the one thing I like about little indie writers is they'll put insignificant little things in the first few books or the first few episodes, and then that turns out to be huge in the end. And you tend to do that.
Thank you.
Do
it's
something
really fun.
small, and then boom, it's gigantic. You're like, wait, where did these come from? Then you go back and you're like, it was a passing forethought. And you throw out these little things that are passing forethoughts that are important, and you make the nerd in me go, okay, now I have to listen to everything this girl says because everything can be important. So
yeah, well, and I think that's true. Like when you're writing, and you have to be careful that it still sounds realistic, but I still think that like everything your character says should be like important to the story. And it's really fun to play with things that feel like just sort of passing references, like, oh, that's going to be huge later. So I also wanted to make sure that people would enjoy re-listening to the show. I wanted to make sure that it had a re-listenable quality. You've listened 4 times. Thank you. So yeah, I wanted to make sure that there would always be layers to kind of unpeel, layers to peel, I guess, is more grammatically correct. But thank you for saying that. It makes me feel really happy that like I've succeeded in doing that.
yeah, so I find your writing very inspiring, and
thank you.
Whenever I listen to Girl in Space, I always think, what other medias is she taking this to? This would be an amazing comic book series. This would be, hell, she should be pitching this to Netflix. Like, it would be an even better live action show or an animated show. Like,
can I tell you a secret?
Did I just break into something?
Maybe. Actually, there is a Girl in Space TV show in development right now.
Oh. Breaking news! You heard it here first, people. So, who can you? I throw these questions out of the way.
Important. Keep your questions. They're good.
So now that like who's gonna star in it and all this stuff, but what can you tell us about that?
That's a good question, because I am under a non-disclosure agreement and all sorts of contractual stuff. So what I can tell you is that the show is in development for television. The pilot is written. I have an amazing showrunner whose name I cannot tell you, but it's really cool. Yeah, and it's moving forward here in 2021. So it's been going on for a long time. I first sold the rights back in 2018, so it's been a while. But yeah, it's a slow process, but it's it's interesting and exciting, and I've learned a lot, which I'm really grateful for. And it's just been a really cool journey.
Well, I severely hope that you make it a comic book as well. Yeah. But I am excited. Like, I will be watching every channel I can to look for that. So I'm definitely going to set up a Google alert as soon as I'm done with this podcast. Because I'm excited for that. I love sci-fi shows. Firefly was a huge one for me. And
Firefly was hugely inspirational for me too. Like that sense of warmth, like when they're around the table, like having that community together. I want more of that in sci-fi. So yes.
The sense of family the crew had in Firefly was huge for me. And the fact that they always stuck together, that was what drew me into that show. And Fox, you're fools for not continuing it.
I know.
But yeah, I digress. So now that you dropped that bomb on us and you're writing season 2, do you have a confirmed date for when season 2 is going to come out? Or
so I don't. This whole, oh my gosh, I feel like nothing has been like stable lately. It's been so weird. So most of 2020 was caught up in, I was actually able to be in the writer's room for the pilot, which was really cool. And it was 2 hours a day for writing. And so I did not get to make as much progress on season 2 in 2020 as I wanted to. I had originally had these intentions that, okay, 2020, I'm going to start writing in February. I'm going to write through till June, and then I'm going to start, getting my voice actors on it, getting their takes, start editing, because I do everything myself. And so it's like, okay, I pace myself through this process, but I like to leave the most time for writing, and then for, the dialogue editing is also really important. But life changed and things happened, and I was suddenly in all of these meetings and right before the pandemic, I was flying out to LA, and then the pandemic happened. And so I feel like I'm making a whole bunch of excuses. But, you know, it's like kind of what happens with creative projects is, you know, your focus gets shifted. But now I am excited to say here in 2021, I am back to writing season 2. There is no projected date yet. Currently, I am on I'm on my 5th rewrite of episode 3. So that's where I am right now.
Yeah, I discovered that in my own writing, that I tend to come across one thing I don't like, because I am like you. I write from my pants. Mm-hmm. I sit down and I just spill out stuff, and then I'll come up to a point where I'm like, I don't like that. Then I'll reread thinking how to change it, and the flow is so good that it comes up to that point and I'm like, crumple, toss.
Scrap. Yeah, I know. I'm trying to change. I'm trying to be more structured with my approach. That was one of the things I learned in being in a writer's room, was outlining is not your enemy. I know I've never liked outlining. I've never liked planning for the fictional things that I write, but I'm trying to work from a loose outline from season 2, just so that I'm not constantly crumpling up that paper and throwing it away and losing all of that work. So yeah, it's so hard though.
Yeah, I'm excited. I am on the.
Thank you.
The one thing I liked about Girl in Space is it kept me on the edge of my seat, even during the re-listens. There was little intricate things about each one that you don't hear it the first time through, and the second time through you still don't hear all of it. The third time through you still discover new stuff, and I have you in a yearly rotate where I go back and I re-listen to all of We're Alive, and I do Girl in Space, and I do Ninth World Journal. I have a bunch of stuff that I go back and re-listen to, and another good friend of the show is Oz9. I go back and re-listen to all of Oz9.
I love them. I love all of these shows that you're listening. We're Alive. I love Oz9. I love Ninth World Journal. This is fantastic. Such good people.
This is a selfish plug of my own. My very first guest on my show was Casey Wayland.
Are you serious?
That was bucket list item number 1 off the chain. Casey Wayland, hands down, is an amazing person. So if you get a chance, please go back and listen to that episode, because he really dives into sound effects and practical effects and everything he does behind the scenes show. And we talk little spoiler things, and I might have inspired part of his new show. So yay! I'm excited for that.
Very cool.
Casey Wayland is a huge hero of mine, and he is an amazing, amazing person. People say don't meet your heroes. I got to meet one of mine, and I lived up to all the hype. So
he's fantastic. Yes, yes.
He is. And if you ever get the chance to work with him, don't turn it down.
He's magic.
Make it work, because that man he is the living embodiment of, if you put in the work, people will come. Yes. And he took, he didn't say this right out, but I feel like he took inspiration from George Lucas, and he used practical sound effects in everything. He is amazing.
I agree. Oh, I love it.
So definitely, if you get a chance, please go back and listen to episode 1. I was very new at podcasting. That I did make basically that was me fanboying out the entire time. Kind of like I'm doing now.
Yeah, we all do.
But so let's move on to Right Now. Can you tell us about Right Now? Mostly because I have no idea, because I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet.
Oh, so fantastic.
Fill me in.
Absolutely. So the Right Now podcast with Sarah Werner was my first podcast. It launched back in January 2015, I think. And it is a show for writers. It started off as an encouragement podcast for creatives, which is really what I like to do. I don't like to so much say, here's where you put the commas and here's how to use a metaphor. I like to say, Here's what it's like to live the life of a writer, and let me break it down so that it's accessible for you as well. So that's really why I started the show. And basically, it gives creators of all kinds and writers at all skill levels the time, energy, and courage you need to pursue your passion and write. That's the tagline for the show. There's currently, I'm on episode 107. What I did was actual episodes of the Right Now podcast came out sporadically, but I also filtered in. I have interviews with other creators as well. Those are called coffee breaks, and they're sort of a spinoff. I have interviews with Alan Alda and a few other just really, really cool creators. Yeah, I know. He wrote a book and about communication, and his PR folks reached out to me and said, "Hey, do you want Alan Alda on your show?" And I said, "Yes, please." And then I hung up on him when he called. So it was like a whole thing.
Alan Alda, click. Oh, no.
Like panicked. No, it was more like a technical difficulty thing. But yeah, so Right Now is my show for writers, for creators, again, of all types and all skill levels, just encouraging you to be creative. I talk a lot about self-sabotage. I talk about writer's block. I talk about writing strong three-dimensional characters and like what makes a character really lovable. Yeah, so that's just some of my most recent ones. I also have a few about how to market your podcast, your blog, your novel, how to market as a writer. That was like a 3-part thing. So yeah, it's a fun show. I love doing it. Now that I have an assistant who keeps me accountable, it comes out weekly once again. So there are new episodes every Wednesday. And yeah, it's just been a delight to make alongside Girl in Space.
Yeah, I have a really bad problem with whenever I start a podcast, I have to go all the way back to episode 1 and listen all the way through.
I do too. That's not a bad thing. You're just a completion. That's okay.
Yeah, I am. It's I don't want to disparage anybody, but it's my OCD factor. So, but I like many other people are subscribed to your email blasts. And
thank you.
Are your emails part of the Right Now podcast, or is that just something you send out to be inspirational?
It is actually something additional that I send out to be inspirational. I feel like there was one recently that I borrowed from, I think the one about protecting your time. There was an email I sent out about how to protect your time. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to take some points from that and turn that into a Right Now episode called Protecting Your Time. But otherwise, they're completely independent. It's just extra bonus material.
Well, they are definitely free. So anybody listening, go get them. Because if you're a writer and you want inspiration, her email blasts do that for you. And not just writing, but podcasting, everything. Like, if you do it, you inspire to do it. And honestly, that was one of the reasons I came back from my hiatus. Like, because my co-host he's going through some stuff because of pandemic and lockdown. He's in Washington, and it's very hard. And I recently moved out of Washington, and I'm finally set up and back. And after all of my podcasting equipment took a poop on me, they did not survive the move.
And your phone, like everything's just yeah.
So I had to buy new microphone, new headphones, everything. So I'm back, and I can honestly say your emails were a part of that, like, because I was seriously debating not doing it. And literally I was talking to my wife about that, and I got a notification on my phone that was your email saying something about what's keeping you back from your podcast. And I was like, good timing, Sarah.
I'm so glad you got back into it, though. I hope you are too. I hope it's been fulfilling. And yeah.
So one of the big things that I am not gifted with a lot of talents. Like, I like to think of myself as a writer, but I only have one published story that is in a textbook used in colleges now.
That's more than many, many writers. Like, that's awesome.
it's the only thing I have, and the only reason it was done is because I actually wrote it as a creative writing assignment, and my teacher loved it so much he sent it to be published. So I was like, okay, but that's all I have, and it's called Surviving the Dark, and it's about a family that is locked in their farmhouse in rural America. I don't tell you where. And they have to figure out how to go out and tend their crops and survive through a zombie apocalypse.
Ooh, I love it.
So they only have 3 interactions with zombies in the short stories, and one of them is it's at night when the zombies are most active, and they are beating on the doors and trying to tear at the windows. So it's very suspenseful. And I end the story, like, big spoilers, but if you're in college, you've read this. I end the story with them breaking through one of the windows, and it literally ends with, and the nail shoots out to the floor.
Ooh, that's such a good visual to end on. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a 10-page paper, and he made me expand it into a 41-page paper.
Oh my gosh.
And he was like, change nothing about this, and I want to expand it into 40 pages. And I was like, okay. I ended up doing 41, and he absolutely loved it. He helped edit it, and then he sent it, and they published it. So it was very mind-blowing.
That's amazing. And to have somebody take an interest in you and like coach you along through that process, and like, that's really a gift. Wow.
Yeah. So being a writer, I take it you read quite a bit. Who are some authors that you absolutely love? No, she shows the library behind her.
So behind me, I'm in my office right now. I know you guys can't see me because this is a podcast, but I'm in my office right now. Behind me is a shelf full of just my favorites. These are my favorite books. And then I've got shelves and shelves in other rooms in the house. What was your question? I got it so excited about books, I immediately blanked on your question.
Favorite author.
Oh. Oh my gosh. Oh, can I pick? I like different writers for different reasons.
That's perfectly fine.
I love James Baldwin because of the power in his voice. That was just like the first person that comes to me. I love Isaac Asimov because of how he is able to predict so many things. I love William Gibson because of the poetry that he infuses in his words. Oh my gosh. I have to like... Oh, I love so many writers. Oh, Jeff Vandemeer, if you haven't read the Southern Reach trilogy, is just mind-blowingly beautiful. I haven't read all of his books, but I'm one of those people that like buys a ton of books, and then they're like, what should I read next? Oh, I should buy a new book. And then, they just build up forever. I love so many writers.
So I have to ask, do you like werewolves and vampires and the mystical?
Yes.
Okay. Can I ruin your 2021 for reading?
Yes.
Patricia Briggs, the Mercy Thompson series.
I've read them.
I love them.
I've read them and I love them. Oh my gosh. Well, so I think one came out after I finished the series, because I think I've read 5, and maybe there are 6, or maybe there's even more now. There's 7. Okay, so I'm 2 behind. Yes, those are amazing.
7 releases in February. So you're only 1 behind right now.
Yeah.
Yes. Patricia Briggs, I absolutely love the way that she paints a picture in your mind.
Yes.
And whoever she got for her cover artist does.
That's why I bought the first book, was the cover.
Yeah. Don't judge a book by the cover.
Oh,
I did.
But I do. Yeah. That's why I bought it. I was like, ooh, that's pretty. And then I like impulse bought it, and I was so happy I did.
Yeah. My sister was like, hey, you should read this. So I read it. And then I read the second one. Then I read the third one. Then I read the fourth one. Then I met my wife, and then she read the first, second, third, fourth, and then we bought the 5th, and now I buy them for her birthday every year that they come out because they release on her birthday.
Oh my gosh, that's so perfect. That's so cool.
So yeah, definitely Mercy Thompson is exploding in that universe, and she has a whole nother series called Alpha and Omega that runs alongside of it.
Oh, I haven't read
About
those.
Yeah, it's about Mercy's, I guess, adopted father, Bran, and
Oh.
but it goes along with his son Charles, and
Okay, yep.
it's about Charles that meets a girl that's actually an Omega, and their whole story together, and it's a great monster love story.
I love monster love stories. Have you the first one of those that I ever read that I didn't even know this genre existed was Bitten by Kelly Armstrong.
I love Bitten.
I do too.
They turned it into a Canadian TV show,
which I watched.
I did too.
all of season 1, and then I saw that there was a season 2, and I was like, I don't know if I want to watch it. So I haven't seen season 2 yet.
Season 2 was hard to get through.
Okay, good to know.
But it's not worth watching.
Okay, also good to know.
So definitely, but I think because it was so hard to get through, I don't think they got season 3. But I think if they do get season 3, it's going to be amazing. So,
very cool. Yay!
Yeah, I definitely love Bitten. Bitten was a good series and everything. So, I was more than happy with it, and I'm kind of wondering like why Patricia Briggs hasn't gotten recognized
recognition
yet.
Yeah, I don't know.
She's huge and she's an amazing writer, and if you can get her on right now, I'd really appreciate it because she's dodging all of my emails, or she's just not seeing them.
I'll give it a shot. Well, I mean, and if she has a new book coming out in February, email her publicist and be like, hey, want to put me on the PR tour, and it's COVID, so you should be doing a lot of podcasts.
Yeah, I have done that multiple times.
Okay.
So I am. The problem is I am very small, and most of my listeners are under 18. I have. And when Podbean decided to do their whole reset, anybody that has a podcast through Podbean lost all of their subscribers.
No.
I lost 84,000 subscribers, and I've only gotten a portion of that back. So
that's horrible. Are you serious?
Yep. And I made sure to email them like what happened. So
I'm sorry, I'm in shock right now. That's horrifying. Like that's your listener base. Like that's wow.
Yeah, I've only gotten a fraction of those people back, and I have to get back on the whole. Make sure to check out my show. Do this. I have to get back on posting them. I have to get back on really advertising my show. But it's hard to do when you work 12-hour night shift days.
Oh, it is absolutely. So, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I have to, and since my co-host is not with me anymore, I have to kind of do that all myself along with editing and everything else. So it's kind of hard to get it back. And I'm really mad. I'm really, really mad at Podbean for doing that, but I don't have to pay my resubscription fee because of this incident. So I guess I'm going to stick with them a little while longer.
Yeah, I guess. Gosh, though.
Yeah.
Oof.
That was another really hard hit because it happened right before we went on hiatus.
Oh no.
And I'm sitting here going, how do I come back from this? Like all of the hard groundwork that I laid and everything, I feel like it just got washed out from under my feet.
Yeah.
So
well, it did.
Yeah, it was it was a very, very hard thing, but I was really glad I'm really, really glad I came back, and now I'm on the phone basically talking with you, and
yeah,
this is a huge thing for me.
Yay! This makes me really happy, and you can always come back from stuff like that, and I'm glad that you're on that path. That's a good place to be.
Yep, and honestly, I have people to thank like you, Casey Wayland, and Shannon Perry, and the people over at Missing Role Player Found. All of them they all inspired me to come back, and I'm really, really glad about it. So definitely, if you like RPG podcasts, go check out Missing Role Player Found. They like to use puns in their titles, like you.
Yay!
they spell roll as in rolling dice.
Oh, cute. Okay, I love it. Why do I love puns so much? I think I'm secretly a very old person, but that's delightful.
Yeah. So what outside of the TV show? Thank you for spoiling that for us.
Yeah.
What's next for Sarah? What is the next big project besides season 2?
Oh, that's such a good question. What is next? I don't know if you struggle with this too. I love taking risks and jumping at opportunities, and it's really hard for me to plan. I was saying, so I do these Wednesday and Friday nights. I do live streams, create-alongs if you're ever interested in joining, but you might be at work. It's 7 p.m. Central, and it's over on my Twitch channel. But I was just talking last night about planning for 2021, and it's like, 5 years ago, I was still working for a marketing company. 5 years ago, I would have said, oh, in 5 years, I would like to be a VP at this marketing company. Whereas, I just took a huge turn since then. I left my full-time job in April 2017 to write and podcast full-time. And now, I'm working in TV, I'm working in podcasting full-time. I've ghostwritten 7 books. Like, it's just, I would have never seen this for myself,
That's
so
amazing.
thank you.
That's a heavy risk, and I completely congratulate you for that, because
Thank you.
being the breadwinner of my family and everything, when I look at risks like that, I have a really hard time doing it, because I'm like, do I give up my stability?
Yeah.
Do I put everything at risk? And most of the time I have to look, does a risk outweigh the benefit? And most of the time I have to be like, no. But when I could do something like, one thing I just decided, and I sat down and I wrote an entire skeleton of a Force and Destiny actual play. I was like, this is a really, really good idea. I wonder if I could take it farther and get it published. And I'm doing all the groundwork, I'm doing all the research, and I'm going to try to make it as close to canon Star Wars as I possibly can, but I'm going to take some creative liberties. Like, one of the liberties I'm doing is in Star Wars Rebels, they created these dark side users called the Inquisitors. And who the Inquisitors are is they're like Darth Vader's Sith assassins that deal with any Force users that are trying to go against the Empire. And I was like, okay, well, there's 10 brothers and there's 10 sisters. But what happens with all the other ones that they find that are Force sensitive that they don't destroy?
Ooh.
So I'm taking the creative liberty to say, well, the Emperor is a very smart man and he always plans for the future. Puts them on carbonite freezing.
Oh, yeah.
So the start of this campaign, this Force and Destiny campaign, is you as the player are waking up blind and cold in a dark room, not really understanding what's going on, and all you can hear is a medical droid saying, you're suffering from carbonite sickness. Hang together until I finish the treatment, and you'll get your vision and the carbonite sickness will go away.
Oh, I love it.
At the same time, the ship completely shakes and rocks and explosions are happening and you're on a ship that's under attack. So from there forth and everything, you're gonna get your butt off the ship. You're gonna find yourself on a planet, and this planet's gonna have hopefully a few creative liberties on it as well. And I really want to inspire the DM to take his players into a certain direction, but players tend to have a problem with zigzagging all over campaigns.
Yeah. Yep.
So I'm trying to write it in a spot from a DM where a DM can say, hey, this is what you have, while still letting the players feel like they have full choice.
Yeah. Yes.
So
yes.
I'm excited to see where I can go to it, but the good thing is I don't really have to worry about taking a giant risk like quitting my job to get this thing published.
Right. Well, and it's not ever like, I really appreciate you saying that. I really appreciate you bringing that up because, when I say I left my job in April 2017, I started leaving my job like a whole year before. Like I started taking on consulting clients. I started ghostwriting books. Like, so it was a very slow buildup. So it's kind of like what you're doing now. You kind of have to build up this runway so that your plane can take off. And it takes a long time to build that runway. I was essentially working 2 or 3 jobs for about a year before I left my like full-time job. So then when I left my full-time job, I had, a steady base of work. And so it was less of a risk because I already had the clients in place. I had the relationships in place. And so I just stopped doing that job and continued with what I had already been doing. So, when I say like, oh, I quote unquote took the leap and like left my day job, it was a very slow and sustained process building up to that. Like it wasn't a leap off of a cliff. It was more just like a plane taking off from a runway that I had taken a lot of time to build. So like, I don't know if that's helpful or.
No, that's incredibly helpful because,
okay, good.
because in media and everything, you hear about people like, yep, I just decided to quit my job and I'm a total success.
Nope. No, we saved up. No, we planned for it. We saved up. Yeah, I didn't just say like, hey, I'm out, bye. It was, I gave a month's notice. Like it was a very long and sustained process. So that's why I like calling it a runway and not like a leap because, it was really involved and yeah, so I like to say that I made sure I had health insurance in place. I made sure that my 401k was gonna, work out okay. Like it was a lot of planning, and a lot of time. And yeah, it took a long time. So
that is both inspiring and calming at the same time.
Good.
Because that's something you don't really hear. Nobody's like, oh yeah, I actually put groundwork into this for years. It's nope, I quit my job on Tuesday and now I'm full-time writer.
Yeah.
What type of groundwork did you? Nothing. I just left.
Yeah, no, that's not how it works. Well, okay. I don't want to say that's not how it works. Maybe these other people have magical experiences. Maybe they have fairy godmothers who like wave a wand and all of a sudden they have like stacks of money somewhere. But like that's not how it worked for me. Like, we have one car. We don't have cable. We were living very frugally. We were saving up all this money, and making our own salad dressing. Like we were just doing everything we could to save up money so that we could build up this financial runway. And another thing that was important is, and I feel like creators don't talk about this either, but making sure you're not putting all your eggs in one basket, risk-wise, because it's like, oh, okay, I have one client and I can rely on them to pay all my bills. And if you lose that client, you're kind of in the gutter. So I made sure that I had at least 7 revenue streams. So I had the Patreon from Girl in Space. I had Patreon from the Right Now podcast. I had my ghostwriting. I had my consulting. I was building websites at the time. I had the income that was coming in from the day job when I was still working there. I was writing for Forbes. I don't remember what the 7th one was. I had some other stuff too. But
you're on 8.
I'm on 8. Okay. Let's just say I had a lot of... I set it up so that all of my eggs weren't in one financial basket either. And that really helped steady, because it really, like, and especially now that writing in TV is feast and famine. It's like you'll get a big check this month and then you won't get any money for the next 3 months. And so, but if you have other stuff, if you have your Patreon coming in, if you have a contract to write articles for someone, if you're also doing some consulting on the side, that helps even it all out so that you're never left high and dry.
Yeah, speaking of Patreon, please plug your Patreon because you know that's what lets you succeed.
Help pay my bills.
Yeah, bottom line is that's what this podcast is all about. It is about reaching out to creative people like you. It is about giving them a platform giving people like you a platform to say, hey, this is what I struggle with. This is what I go through. This is the behind the scenes of it. This is the grind. This is everything you have to do to succeed. And I pray that the listeners of this podcast go, I'm checking out this person's work. I love this person's work. $1 on Patreon.
I love it. I thank you for doing this. So many writers and so many creators like need something like this, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And like, honestly, the only thing I want is for this to get out. And right now, my creative outburst is me and some very close friends are getting together, and we're going to do a 5e D&D steampunk cyber apocalyptic podcast that we're all going to just have fun with. And that is going to and we're going to be looking for people to help support that because it's expensive.
Yes. Yes. Good. I love it. Well, and what's your Patreon? Like, do you have people support you?
We don't have yet. I don't have a Patreon for this because I don't want people to support this podcast. This is my gift to the world, basically, because I'm here to support creators like you. Okay. And I constantly look for people to send me questions about what they want to find out about you. And like all of these questions right here are from fans of the show.
Oh, that's so cool.
The only big question I really like to ask people is, why did you start doing this? What inspired you to be a writer?
Do you want the long answer or the short answer?
Take as much time as you want.
Oh gosh. So growing up, I was raised in a very strict household and we weren't allowed to watch TV. And so to entertain myself, I read because we lived a few blocks from the library and I had a library card. And so I grew up reading absolutely everything I could get my hands on. And I think at some point when you consume enough of something, or at least, I don't know, maybe this is just people who, I don't know, who love it that much, but I was compelled to create my own stories. And so as long as I can remember, I've been, as sort of a natural response to everything I was reading, I was also writing and creating because of that. It almost became like an input-output kind of feed. So I would read and I would write. And my very first writing was, terrible. And, it was what little kids write. And then later, as I was reading more like chapter books, I found myself writing in the voices of those writers. I remember I was writing what was essentially Boxcar Children fan fiction. And I didn't know that that's what it was called at the time. I was like, I want to write my own Boxcar Children book because I love these mysteries. And, that's really just how I got into writing, was just through love and passion for stories and for a place where I could feel safe. We talked earlier about how compelling Firefly was because of that sense of warmth and family and the characters really caring about each other. And I was really obsessed, even before Firefly, I was obsessed about recreating that and really making a warm and safe place for people to kind of exist for a while. And so that's really how I got started writing. And it's, I've been journaling for years, for my entire life. And it's just always not only been about creating a space where I can go and be myself, my actual self, and be safe, but it's also about just processing thoughts. Like that's just how I process as well, is I write, I journal every day. That's just how I untangle the mess that's going on up here in my brain. So really for me, when I'm not writing, I actually will get sick. I'll get depressed. I'll get just, I'll go to a bad place. Yeah. And maybe that's something that like you feel as well. When I'm not creating, I'm not myself and I'm not happy and I'm not fulfilled. And sometimes I forget that, I went through about a 10-year period of time when I wasn't doing any creative writing. And I was like, this was after college. And I had a job that I hated, and I would go home at night and I would resist the urge to write. And I discovered TV. So we'll say that. And I discovered that there was a pawn shop down the street for me. I was living in Chicago at the time that sold like box sets of TV shows. And so I worked my way through Futurama and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I think that's when I discovered Firefly. I bought a box DVD set from the pawn shop. And I was just like watching all of this television and not writing. I don't want to say there's no value in watching television, because there's so much good writing out there in television, and there's so much good and compelling storytelling. But I found that when I was writing television, I wasn't processing like I was with reading books. And so I wasn't creating as a result of it. So that went on for about 10 years. And honestly, the thing that got me back into writing was Dungeons and Dragons. Because at the time I had a really good DM, and we were playing a 3.5 Forgotten Realms campaign, and I had created, I know, I love it.
I'm surprised 3.5 is what brought you in. Like, that took so many players out. So I commend you on that.
Well, 3.5 was all I knew. So I didn't discover D&D until, I want to say my early 20s. So like I was kind of like a latecomer. And 3.5. And for me, it wasn't really the system that got me into it so much as the people, because, I think all my life I've been searching for that safe space, that community, right? That communal storytelling space. And my DM gave us, bonus XP if we wrote short stories about our D&D character. Mm-hmm. And I was like, let me crack my knuckles, because I had a what was it? A tiefling noble, I think, or wizard noble, because we were like multi-classing. I don't even remember. But I played this game for 8 or 9 years, and through my character, I rediscovered my love of writing, and I was getting paid, quote unquote, in XP for my character. And I just ended up creating this huge saga of a backstory for my character. And that's really what pulled me back into writing again.
Nice. So do you want to hear my current character's little backstory snippet?
Yes.
So first, he is a Dragonborn, but he's not like other Dragonborns. So you know how they look like lizard people.
Yeah,
This is what mine looks like, if you can see it.
Oh, I can. Did you commission that?
I did not, but it's the closest thing on the internet I could find to my imagination.
Yeah.
So, I was ruffling in the deep, dark basement of D&D Reddit, and I was looking for obscure character classes that have very rare play, and I found one called the Dragonborn Mutant. And why they are called mutants is because they have like a genetic mutation that makes them look more human than dragon. And because of this mutation, they are looked at like I want to say Tyrone, but that's wrong. Tywin Lannister, not Tywin Lannister. Tyrion Lannister is looked at like in Great Game of Thrones. Everybody looks at him with disdain. And because of that, my character decided to, he was part of a very prominent blacksmithing family that was able to help save a nation during a great war with their expertise in making weapons. And because of that, the emperor, the leader of this blacksmithing clan was made the emperor's right-hand confidant. And so they gained a lot of political power. And one of the traditions this family upholds is the business will always be passed along to the firstborn son. And my character is the secondborn son. So he was given a choice by his father, and his choice was, you can either stay in the company, work under your brother, and gain no recognition whatsoever. You will just be your brother's lackey. Or you can leave the family, give up your last name, and go live out in the world. So my character chose to leave and give up his last name. And being that his dad was the right-hand man to the emperor, he grew up next to the prince. So,
oh, gosh, yeah.
When the prince's time of age came up to serve in the military, he stood next to his best friend and went through the entire military career until his friend was made emperor. And the story picks up with him retiring, and he is now opened a little blacksmithing shop to gain his fortune. And he is in a little place called the Tin and Tang. And then a calamity happens where this rift opens in the middle of the city, and it's just layers upon layers upon layers of monsters and dungeons, and our characters have to go down this dungeon to do it. And my character, being a Dragonborn mutant, decided to disguise himself as a tiefling so he doesn't have to deal with all of that pressure of everybody looking at him with disdain.
That is awesome, because my tiefling disguises herself as a human for the same reason.
So yeah, in 3.5, tieflings were just like, ooh, they're demons. Nobody likes them. Now in 5e, everybody loves a tiefling. And I'm just sitting here like, no, let's bring that back. And because it drives so many good stories.
Oh, being cast out, being an outsider is just, there's so much richness there for storytelling.
But writing this, I discovered something that I am enjoying telling every writer all about.
Oh,
have you ever heard about Rocketbook?
No.
So here's my little Rocketbook. You guys can't see it. It's just a black book. It says Rocketbook on the front. It's just a little notebook. But the thing that makes it cool is you see these symbols?
Oh, yeah.
So you can literally assign those symbols in an app to wherever you go. Scan the page with your phone, and it automatically goes there digitally. And then you can just use a little towel to wipe it clean.
Oh, heck. Really?
Yeah. Cost me $20 on Amazon. And it comes with this really cool pen.
Oh, my gosh. Rocketbook.
And it's just one of the Pilot Fire, I don't know, it's just one of these.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And it's awesome because you never lose your writing.
Oh my gosh. And you're not like me where you have I literally have 3 notebooks next to me, and they all have Post-it notes hanging out. I don't know if you can see this, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
Imagine all of that, every single one of them just going to your Google Docs.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. That is fantastic.
It's the full size one is $40, and the one with it comes with a leather bound traveling book that carries pens and everything in it.
Oh my gosh.
But being a writer, this is a tool that is amazing, and it is worth every single penny.
Oh, I love it. That's fantastic. And also they should sponsor you.
They should sponsor me. But I am, and it's not just great for writers because the pages are not lined. They got these very faint dots, like a
grid. Yeah.
They're very, very hard to see. You have each one of the symbols down here at the bottom, also very hard to see, but you can just mark that grid, and that's how the app knows where to send it.
See, that's innovation. I like that.
Yes, it is an amazing innovation, but it's also good for hand and for people that like drawing with pencil and paper still, because you can scan your stuff into Google Docs or anything. You can literally make it upload into freaking Imgur or anywhere you want. It is awesome.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And that takes if you're writing on a plane, that takes you from having 15 notebooks to a small little pad.
That's amazing. Yes. Yeah, because whenever I travel, it's got to cram my 8 notebooks into my bag.
Yeah, imagine just using your Google Doc cloud and any other digital thing. Not only that, it saves paper. It's green for the environment. So, I mean, I've probably erased this one page 50 times since I've gotten this page, and it works every time. These microfiber cloths freaking are awesome. So, definitely that is my one plug that's free for you guys over at Rocketbook, but definitely check them out. They're awesome. But I need to end the show, and because I'm having way too much fun talking to you, and I'm going to keep you here all day. So
I'm having a great time too. Thank you for this.
So please reiterate where people can find you, where they can find your podcasts, where they can just continually be inspired by you.
Oh gosh, well, thank you. The big hub is over at sarahwerner.com. That's sarahwerner.com. You can find links to Girl in Space, my audio drama show that we were talking about. You can find a link to the Right Now podcast, which is my show for writers and creators. You can also sign up for the newsletter that James mentioned a little bit earlier, and that is called Dear Creators, and you can sign up for that through my website. Again, every single one of these things is free. If you want to start your own podcast, I have a free resource for that out on my website. It's called the Podcast Roadmap PDF, and you can just download that for free.
I downloaded that.
Oh, did you? Was it helpful? I hope it was helpful.
It was helpful. It was helpful.
Yeah. Otherwise, you can find me out on Twitter and Instagram at Sarah Ray Werner. That's SarahRheaWerner. And yeah, I'd love to interact with you. My DMs are open. I try to connect with everyone, and I try to respond as much as I can. So yeah, just come over and say hi. I'd love to say hi back.
Well, definitely keep me at the top of your list for responses because I like to pick people's brains and I can't stand with not getting a response.
I will always try to respond even if it's a little bit slow. So
yeah, I know you're a very, very busy person and I don't want to be held to some priority or anything, but I definitely have to thank you again for coming onto the show and just being a daily inspiration for writers and podcasters out there everywhere. Honestly, I think every podcast person should be signing up for your email blast and looking at your resources because they are little bits of wisdom gold. So,
thank you. Gosh, thank you.
So I've learned an immense amount, and thank you for crossing this off of my bucket list.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. This has been a joy, and I totally interrupted you, and I apologize for that.
No, honestly, like one of the things that I look forward to is talking to creative people because I have the gift for gab.
Well, that's why you're a podcaster.
Yeah, a lot of my podcasting is right off my butt because I am not a person that sits down and like, I have to think of questions. I don't do that. I'd rather just have a conversation with you. And, but thank you so much for just everything you do. And honestly, everybody out there that does get your email blasts and does listen to your shows, I'm pretty dang sure they'd want to say thank you as well.
Oh, thank you.
And to the listeners, thank you for tuning into the show. Sarah, again, thank you for your time. And if there's any other guests that I should be looking at and I should be inviting onto the show, or if there's anybody out there that wants to come on our show and promote your art, whatever that may be, I don't care if you're a chef in a kitchen in New York or a street artist that is tagging up graffiti on the side of the road, please come onto the show and let's talk about it. Let's inspire it. And how can people support you? So you can find me on Twitter at CreatorZAnon, spelled the same way as the show. You can find me in the Cast Junkie Discord as soon as my phone lets me log in. And you can find me pretty much anywhere. I'm also on TikTok now at CreatorZAnon because I am finding a crap ton of talent there and I can't wait to get more people on the show there. But if there's anything, please reach out to me. You can also send us an email at creatorzanon@gmail.com. And remember, everyone, until next time, stay creative.